He is the most complete ancient human ever discovered, an individual frozen in time, so well preserved that he continues to yield scientific insights decades after his discovery. See, the Iceman, as he would come to be known, is possibly the most studied human being in history. Despite having died over 5,300 years ago, his body appeared, upon discovery, as though he had perished only yesterday. But the illusion of peaceful preservation shattered the moment researchers discovered the arrow embedded in his back. On September 19, 1991, German hikers Helmut and Erika Simon were trekking through the thawing glaciers of the Etzdal Alps along the Italian-Austrian border when they stumbled upon what appeared to be a recent climbing accident. A human corpse protruded from the melting ice, its skin dark and leathery from centuries of sun and snow exposure. They assumed the body had been there for weeks, maybe a month. In reality, they had just made the most significant archaeological discovery of the century. What followed was a logistical disaster. Over the course of 5 chaotic days, 8 different rescue and recovery teams arrived on the scene. None were trained for archaeological work, and many brought crude tools. They used ice picks, shovels, and even pneumatic drills to free the body from its frozen tomb, unwittingly destroying precious forensic evidence in the process. Even famed mountaineer Reinhold Messner appeared to witness the commotion. No one realized they were disturbing the most pristine prehistoric crime scene ever discovered. Then came the political drama. Austria and Italy immediately began arguing over who had rightful claim to the body. Only when precise GPS data was reviewed did the truth come out. C had been found exactly 92.56 meters inside Italian territory, less than the length of a football field. Austria had lost a 5,300-year-old murder victim by a margin of mere meters. Meanwhile, the Simons, the couple who had found him, spent the next 17 years embroiled in legal battles over their finder's fee. Others eventually came forward to claim they had found the body first. One woman even claimed she had spit on the corpse to mark it with her DNA as proof. Yes, someone tried to claim legal ownership of a 5,000-year-old mummy by licking it. But none of that mattered once scientists began their examination. C became the subject of intense research. For 10 years, scientists meticulously studied every inch of him. They examined his tools, his clothes, the pollen in his gut, the contents of his last meal. They knew he was roughly 45 years old when he died, that he had spent his final days in high alpine territory, and that he had suffered violent injuries. But the true cause of death remained a mystery, until a routine X-ray in 2001 changed everything. There, lodged deep in CZ's left shoulder, was a 13mm flint arrow head. The wooden shaft had broken off on impact, but the arrow had pierced a major artery. C would have bled out within minutes. The angle of the wound told its own story. The arrow had struck from behind and below. This wasn't a random accident. Someone had waited for the perfect shot, hidden on the slope beneath him. This was a targeted execution. Further analysis revealed defensive wounds, fresh cuts on his hands and wrists, suggesting C had fought for his life. More chilling still, blood from 4 separate individuals was found on his gear. One person's blood was on his knife blade. 2 more were linked to a single arrow head, suggesting C had used the same arrow to kill both before retrieving it. A 4th person's blood stained his coat, possibly from a wounded ally he had tried to help. This wasn't just a murder, it was a running battle. C had been fleeing, wounded and exhausted, possibly carrying a dying companion. He had reached a high pass, likely believing he was finally safe, but his pursuers caught up with him. The arrow was fired from such close range that the shaft shattered. The killer retrieved what they could, the broken shaft, but left the flint tip buried too deep to extract. That final, fatal blow sealed CZ's fate, but it also preserved his story for 5,300 years. Then came the biological miracles. In 2012, scientists discovered something that should have been impossible: intact, functional red blood cells, the oldest ever found in a human. Not just traces or smudges, but complete, perfectly preserved cells that looked as though they had been drawn yesterday. Cece's blood had survived 5 millennia of freezing in a near-perfect state. And yet, for 18 years, scientists believed his stomach had decomposed and vanished. Then, in 2009, a CT scan revealed it had been pushed upward beneath his rib cage by glacial pressure, still intact, still filled with the contents of his final meal. Inside were remnants of ibex meat, wild grains, and alpine herbs, foods he had eaten less than 2 hours before his death. Researchers were able to reconstruct his last day almost bite by bite. But the greatest twist of all came in 2023. For over 30 years, museums and textbooks displayed Cece as a pale-skinned man with long, flowing hair. Children visited his reconstructions on school field trips. Documentaries immortalized his features. But advanced genomic analysis revealed the truth. Cece had dark skin and was completely bald. For decades, science had inadvertently whitewashed one of the oldest preserved humans ever found. On June 21, 2022, a gold miner named Travis Mudry was excavating permafrost in Canada's Yukon Territory when his machine hit something soft, a rare event in frozen ground. He shut off the engine and began to dig by hand. What he found stunned the world: the body of a baby woolly mammoth, so perfectly preserved that its skin, ears, trunk, tail, and even internal organs remained intact. The locals named her Nunchoga, big baby animal in the Hin language. She was 30,000 years old. But across the world in Siberia, researchers uncovered an even older marvel. In 2024, deep inside the Batagaika crater, known as the Mouth of Hell, scientists found Yana, another baby mammoth preserved with astonishing completeness. Her trunk, limbs, skin, and internal organs were all untouched by decay. Most astonishingly, her body contained actual liquid blood, still flowing after 50,000 years. It was one of the most extraordinary biological discoveries in history. Even earlier, in 2018, scientists had found a 42,000-year-old ice age foal preserved in Siberian permafrost. When they opened the animal's body, dark red blood poured out. Not mineralized residue, not tissue remnants, blood. Flowing, liquid blood from an extinct creature whose ancestors roamed the earth before humans had even learned to smelt metal. Each discovery pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible. In some cases, scientists were able to stimulate cellular activity in mammoth tissue over 34,000 years old. Certain biological functions, once believed impossible to preserve, had survived dozens of millennia in frozen stasis. More followed. In 2020, researchers discovered the first complete Ice Age cave bear with soft tissues, organs, muscle, even its nose all intact. A creature extinct for 15,000 years, looking like it had lain down only days ago. They found woolly rhinoceroses with horns still attached, wolves with glistening fur, lions from an era when great cats hunted across the Arctic. Now, companies like Colossal Biosciences are pushing this science into a new realm. Using CRISPR gene editing technology, they've already introduced 45 genetic edits into Asian elephant cells, modifying them to more closely resemble those of woolly mammoths. Their goal is to birth the first mammoth-elephant hybrid calf by 2027. Real life, duh? Extinction? A modern-day Jurassic Park with mammoths. But there's a haunting irony. The same climate change thawing the ice and revealing these frozen relics is also destroying the conditions that preserved them. We are racing against time to uncover and study our ancient past before it vanishes forever. And there's another layer to this story, a human one. To many indigenous communities, these remains are not just scientific specimens. They are ancestors, sacred. Many of the discoveries, including Nunchoga, have been made without consultation or permission. The Tarondik-Huichin First Nation had to fight to retain a role in studying the mammoth found on their land. Across the Arctic, indigenous voices are demanding respect, involvement, and accountability. Every frozen body tells a story. Cece, shot in the back while fleeing his pursuers. A baby mammoth lost from her herd. A cave bear dying alone in an eternal winter. Stories of fear, pain, loss, but also stories of resilience, of life that endured against all odds, of organic systems so robust that not even 50,000 years of ice could erase them. Cece's killer thought he had erased a man from history. He could never have imagined that his crime would become the most thoroughly investigated murder in human history, that his victim would become the most studied human who ever lived. And even now, in laboratories from Bolzano to Montreal to Yakutsk, scientists are still decoding ancient DNA, still solving Ice Age mysteries, still bringing the past back to life. Somewhere in the ice, more stories are waiting, stranger, older, more extraordinary than any we've yet uncovered.